Well, it looks like Trump has a victory, and all along those lines. So we'll be talking about that and talking about other things happening in the world. But the judge has ruled that Fannie Willis must step aside from the Trump case or fire special prosecutor Nathan Wade. So definitely that is something that's going on there in Georgia. They're saying that the Georgia election case can proceed if the DA or prosecutor removes themselves. So that is what is going on in that particular case. So it does look like that kind of romantic relationship might have caused one of them to not be involved, but they are saying that the case can go on and all in that space. And definitely the Russian Election Commission is saying that they had a high turnout and that it was overwhelming with the online voting. And Putin pitches his vision as voters apparently averted their gaze from that war that is going on over there in Ukraine. So definitely looks like an election that has got an all but certainty of what the result will be, which will basically be that notion of what goes on in Russian politics, which is that Putin will win once again. So that is something else going on in that space. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that, as apparently he's winning with no opposition. So Vladimir Putin may submit the longest reign since Stalin. He'll have the longest reign since Stalin was there in that particular part of the world. And in the Middle East, there is an attack that killed 20 and injured 155 at a Gaza food aid point as Israel denies responsibility. So that is something else that is going on in that part of the world as people were waiting for food aid there in Gaza. And apparently, if you were going to go to the Mickey D's or the Big D's and you were in certain parts of the world, you might have had some problems because apparently the McDonald's stores in Australia, Asia, and Europe were hit by a major IT failure. So if you try to get that Big Mac in those parts of the world, you might have had some major glitches, since apparently the McDonald's operation was disrupted around the world after a technology outage. So no matter what we talk about with AI and technology, it can have its limitations as well. And in Haiti, another one of those small countries that we talk about sometimes here on World Edition, fear and chaos are stalking an effectively leaderless country. So some people are still trying to figure out who is Barbecue. Apparently, that is a Haiti prominent gang leader that is also maybe having some impact on the political landscape, as apparently he's even been threatening politicians. And I know that when I met a young lady that was coming to a dance class that was from Haiti, and she was talking about how she definitely feels deep sadness over the state of her country and all along those lines. But she is hopeful that things will change for the better at some point or another. And it looks like the Palestinian leaders have appointed a longtime advisor as a prime minister. So definitely the new Palestinian prime minister offers little hope for change. And Abbas has appointed the former World Bank economist and longtime ally as the next PA prime minister. So definitely it looks like somebody that has been there for a while will be still in that position. And Hamas is proposing a 6-week Gaza truce and a hostage prisoner exchange with Israel officials. So we'll see if that goes anywhere as well. And Qatar Emir has proposed expelling Hamas officials in a meet with Blinken days after October 7th. So definitely some people, including Israel, are saying that Hamas hostage proposals are unrealistic and their delegation will be going to Qatar. So definitely seems like they're still trying to get some things going on in that space. And coming back to Africa, the Senegal Supreme Court has rejected the opposition bid to delay the election. So it looks like Ousmane Sonko and Bassirou Diomaye Faye, Senegal's opposition leaders, have been freed and released from prison as elections loom. So definitely that is something going on as well. So there are these world politics taking place all over the world and all in that space. So apparently, the folks that are wondering about the Boeing crash, the Boeing is telling the airlines to check their 787 cockpit seats after a mishap on the Latin flight. So the Boeing 787 technical event was caused by a cabin crew hitting a switch. So apparently the wrong switch, you might get yourself in trouble if you are doing that kind of work. And they're saying that the flight attendant's cockpit blunder likely caused the plane to plunge. So definitely got to know which buttons you want to hit and all along those lines. And in the UK government has published a new definition of extremism, and critics fear it could curtail free speech. So the fight back against people who hate Britain has begun, and Michael Gove has named groups as he unveils his definition of what extremism is. So definitely be interesting to see what goes on in that space. And if you're wondering about the Indian military, they do have a military, and the Indian Navy warship has responded to an SOS by a Bangladeshi ship that was seized by pirates. And yes, there are still pirates out there in the world as well. So the hijacked ship may have been used in an attack near Somalia, according to security groups and all along those lines. So that's some of the news. I'll bring in my fine folks, maybe grab a glass of water and all along those lines. But definitely that's a number of things that are taking place. But I've got Rick Rosner with me.
Hello.
So how's things going? We got all kinds of things. And we've got Jatobi, and of course we've got Nick Palveda, one of the founders of the network as well. So what did you think that apparently I just had to get to that.
Well, you presented it as a victory for Trump. I think it's a victory for Fani Willis. The judge found no actual impropriety, and just to avoid the appearance of impropriety, she has to let her prosecutor go. Right. But she can stay on the case, which I'm sure she will.
Well, that's a twisted interpretation. They kick the prosecutor out, and you say it's a victory for them. That's not a victory.
Yeah, but the DA can stay on, and there's no actual impropriety. Yeah. And just
right. Well, there is an appearance, as what he said, but the thing is, that's enough to kick you out, and so that's a victory for Trump. But I like how the spin is. Well, it's a victory for Fani, because she didn't go to jail. I mean, come on, this is definitely something that Trump has a victory for, and he's going to gloat about it. Hey, look, I got rid of Fani Willis, but it has nothing to do with the case. So when it first came up, I'm going like, what's all this about? It has nothing to do with the case. It's the sideshow of the circus. And realize when Trump gets elected, he's going to bring the circus to town. And there's going to be the circus, the ringleader, which is him, all the funny people around him, and all the sideshows will all come with it. So the United States has just brought in, or will bring back, the Ringling Brother Barnum and Bailey circus to town.
I don't think Trump can win with Laura Trump running the RNC. They've just announced that they are ceasing efforts to get older people to vote by mail. They're admitting that they're just tanking it, and they're just going to fight it by lying about the results even more strongly than they did about the 2020 results.
But why would they have to lie about the results when they're going to win in the polls and they're going to win in the election? I don't see any lying.
They're actually.
I do see the Democrats have their head in the sand about this whole thing, and when they lose in November, they're going to maybe wake up and maybe not. It won't matter to me. I'm going to be in Spain, guys. So when Mark Robinson comes here and Trump brings his circus to town, I'll be watching everything from Barcelona, baby.
I will say that the case, the Fani Willis decision, wasn't really. It was a partial win for Fani because she gets to stay on, but it's also a big win for Trump, the Trump team, because of the fact that it's going to taint the jury. They're going to run the whole, hey, she couldn't. She did wrong this way. It's impropriety. They're going to run the whole gamut of, and then so it's going to taint the jury.
They're going to be able to do that outside of court, but inside court, the judge is not going to allow that to be brought up. I can tell you that right now, Jatovi. So the minute they start talking about Fani Willis being gone, the judge is going to slap the attorney. You may be even held for contempt of court. It has nothing to do with the case. So watch if the attorney is bold enough, which I wouldn't do, and bring up a sideshow into your main argument. That judge will say, "You bring that up again, sir, I'm going to hold you in contempt." So it's not going to be part of the trial.
That in the actual case, I mean, in the courtroom, that's going to be there. But the jury's watching TV right now, and so
whether they're supposed to or not.
Well.
They're supposed to be
always a problem with the
sequestered,
jury
but they do
trial.
watch TV.
You know,
So
I gotta tell you.
in terms of I
Maybe they'll
still
sequester the jury. Who knows?
well I mean we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
That's-
the show will still go on.
but again,
So Biden's Vegas odds of getting reelected in the past month have gone from 29% to 45.5%.
Not surprising.
Well, speaking of odds and everything, and
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close election. I don't think it's
Well,
going to be.
every election is close. We're an evenly divided country. Nobody's gotten more than 53% of the vote since 1988.
Well, speaking of that and everything, we kind of talked about it yesterday, and I might get to TikTok in a minute and everything. But I'm going to bring up something else that I know some people are excited about. Some people might not be excited about it because a lot of people are working from home. As a matter of fact, I've been doing that all day today. I've been doing it this week, not just with Pod TV, but with some of my other jobs as well. But Bernie Sanders is thinking that we need a 32-hour work week. So he's proposed reducing Americans' work week to 32 hours. And part of what he is citing is AI gains and automation in the Senate bill that he has introduced and is bringing in this notion of a 4-day work week without a pay cut. So what do we think about this notion of instead of working 5 days, it's 4 days of work and 3 days of a weekend? So what do you think about Bernie Sanders?
Here's what I think. Bernie is such an idiot. And now the thing is he's showing more than an idiot, and only because of empirical evidence I get. But also you could probably do your own studies. All the people, not some, all the people that are financially successful work like 80 hours a week. The only ones that work 40 hours a week are the ones that are going to hope that they're able to retire on their 401ks, which isn't going to happen. So when he says, let's go down to 32, I am telling you, he's going in the wrong direction. If you want to be successful in the United States of America, think working 80 hours a week. Do not think working 40, and do not listen to Bernie Sanders. He is not successful at anything. He's been a government leech all his life. Go look at other successful people. Read the book, The Millionaire Next Door. Go to some seminars about how people are successful, and don't listen to a career politician who knows nothing about the American way of life because he's never lived it.
So
Anyway,
just to counter with a little bit of fact instead of actually
you're going to counter with success. Go ahead, show me the route to failure.
So just to point out again, this is where we get into the emotion of things and not the actual facts of things. There have been studies done on 4-day work weeks, and other countries do. There are other countries that do have 4-day work weeks. Also, if you look at different industries, there are 4-day work weeks in those industries. And then, yes, to be super successful, they always talk about the grind. Just saying you're doing a 4-day work week doesn't mean that you're not on the grind. I mean, for example, if you look at teachers who you say, oh, well, anyone successful works, teachers work more than 80 hours a week. Teachers or nurses work more, but they're not the richest people in our country. So if you're talking about money being the only way to judge someone's success, that's a bad way to judge it. But getting back to the point, in Japan back in 2019, dropped in Microsoft Japan introduced a 4-day work week and reported a 40% boost in productivity. That is a study that was done. There are similar results. This is actually from the World Economic Forum. They talk about this, how a 4-day work week is a positive thing in many industries. So just to complain and say that a 4-day work week does not work, that's not true.
Actually, the way you're doing this study, your productivity is more as you shrink, which does happen, Jatovi, but your overall productivity is not. It just means during a shorter period of time, you can be more productive. Every idiot knows that.
Automation.
A 4-day work week boosted 40% productivity. What are you talking about?
So you're sending the wrong message. You need to send the message. If you want to be successful in the United States of America, not Japan, here, think working 80 hours a week. I can talk to all my successful business owners. every one of them say, I don't work 9 to 5, I work 5 to 9. And that's the reason I'm successful. And frankly, you're not.
Most people aren't business owners, but since World War II, productivity, thanks to automation, has gone up 15 or 20 fold. But in the past 50 years, all the profits and benefits have gone to the owners, the billionaire owners, and wages have stayed flat.
Yeah, you're right, Rick. It goes to the business owners. And do you know why? It's because your educational system that you want to pay the teachers more only train people to be employees. Their mentality is EE. I'm going to work for somebody all my life and get my golden handcuff and beg that they give me benefits.
I've loved working. I've loved working for other people.
If
not everybody can be or wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody can be or wants to go to college. Not everybody can be and wants to do these particular things that you keep saying that, oh, this is the solution. This is the problem. That's just not reality.
I love somebody else being the boss. I saw the pressure that my boss, when I worked on
I can tell you, as an owner of a company for 22, maybe now 40 years, I was shocked because I hung out with business owners. I never hung out with the employees. When I had like 27 employees, it was shocking to me because I used to only hang out with business owners that they didn't want to be the boss. I'm going like, dude, why don't you want to be the boss? They don't want to be the boss.
Everybody.
Okay, that's
this
fine.
Is why,
not everybody has to be the boss.
This is why your argument.
I'm going to take a lot of money and go to Spain for vacation.
Your argument.
Josh is going to go to Aruba,
flat.
and we're gonna.
Here's why your argument continues to fall flat because you keep saying everybody should be like you. That is not true.
No. The thing is, they should.
The thing is, like Nick. For example,
like
you're ranting and raving about, oh, I'm a business owner and I can go to Spain. Well, you know, if you actually went and got yours, if you were actually an AI programmer or actually got your Cisco certifications and stuff, they make more than you. They work for other people.
How do you know that?
So you look it up. The statistics. Do you realize how much you make just having a CCE? Do you realize how much you make? So again, it doesn't matter what you're talking about because your argument.
I'm not going to complain that he does quite well, but you have to get a master's degree.
Because of my personal experience, that's the rule. That doesn't work. That's a bad argument.
Look at these jobs that aren't even really jobs where you're your own boss. Driving for Uber, selling stuff on eBay or Etsy. These are these side hustly jobs like you know, you make your own hours, but when you average it out of your hourly wage, you're getting screwed by the companies that make it possible to be your own boss.
And that's part of the reason, Rick, you have to work 80 hours a week. And also realize the jobs you discussed, they are not the business owner. It's a whole different cat. You're basically
Nick.
The argument is poor.
Nick, hold on a second. Nick, hold on a second. Speaking of business owners and everything, there is a major rich individual that apparently got fined some significant money because he got too close to a natural wonder. So I know that sometimes people pay attention to what the heck Pierce Brosnan says, but he's been ordered to pay over $2,000 for hiking too close to the dangerous hot springs over there in the Yellowstone National Park offense. So he has pleaded guilty, and I guess he said, hey, I got a little bit too close to those hot springs. Yeah. Definitely, I will go ahead and.
Well, those hot springs are dangerous. There was somebody whose dog jumped into the hot springs. It was dying. So he jumped in to save him. And guess what? When he got out, he said, this is a big mistake. And his eyes melted inside his head and he basically died. The hot springs are very dangerous. People don't realize how dangerous they are. But going back to being a business owner, how many of you took entrepreneurship in high school? Raise your hands. How many took How to Own a Business in high school? Raise your hands. No, there's a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's the book you need to read. It's not provided by your education system.
Nick, hold on a second. Nick, hold on a second. Let me
ask you something. Hold on.
I need a raise.
Do you think Mr. Beast took these classes that you're talking about?
Yeah. What about these?
He's classes? A business owner. He just started his own business and did his own thing. You know what? He can do more than you.
Yeah, because he's a business
No,
owner.
he started his own business. That already wipes out your whole argument. Then on top of that,
He started
his
his own business,
employees,
became a
Just
business
tell me.
owner, so he's
employees
successful. Those are the
make
people I
more
work with.
than
And yeah, I work with a lot of people
Hey,
that
hold
are
on a second. Hold on a
They're
second.
working for somebody else.
other
doing
business
40 hour
owners.
weeks.
Good for
They
him.
But Jacoby and
Congratulations.
Nick,
Your argument is falling flat.
No, you just told me he does better than me, and he's a business owner. You didn't tell me
He
was some
didn't do
employee
your
for Uber.
entrepreneur class like you're saying has to happen. He didn't do your financial literacy
That's
class.
because
that
it's
has to
not
happen.
offered,
He
Jacoby.
did his
Hello.
own
Your
thing.
education system in this country
You're
sucks.
actually staying.
You
And
don't
then on top of
offer
that,
entrepreneurship.
do you
Your
realize
teachers
how
want
many
raises,
how many small
and they're
businesses
teaching the
start?
wrong
How many
subjects.
small businesses start every year in North Carolina?
Oh gosh, there's going to be thousands of them.
How
How many?
many
You
do
tell me.
exactly what you're talking about?
You
Not
mean
that
become
many.
successful? Very few. Success
Very
rate's maybe
few.
10%.
And how
This
many
is a
successful
terrible time
businesses-
for
That's
retail.
because
You're
your
just
education
making a
system here
flat
sucks.
argument saying that if you don't do what
No,
I
no,
did,
your
then
education
you're
system
not
sucks.
doing anything.
Jacoby,
that's your
listen,
argument.
listen very carefully. Your education system here sucks. Your teachers want more raises, and they're teaching the wrong thing. That's the reason why
Incorrect.
they're not
The
successful.
problem is we have people like you actually trying to jump in and saying that our teachers are so horrible. Well, you know
Yeah,
what?
they're nice people. They
The
just
only
teach the
way
wrong
to help
stuff.
our teachers is to give them the supplies, give
No,
them the
supplies.
actual
They
money
need
and the
a
financial
retooling
backing
in
that they need.
education.
They do not have the support. So when you're talking about working
You're
80
right,
hours a
they
week,
don't.
they work more than 80 hours a week.
Yeah, but they're
work
working on the wrong thing.
more than actually any lawyer
what?
that you're talking about. They work more than you and make less.
You
They're
play
doing
chess
it for
80
the
hours a
passion
week.
and
You're
the
not gonna be
love. You're doing it
successful.
for the greed and complaining that everybody else can't be like you. That's a bad argument.
No.
Not
What
bad
I'm
argument.
saying is that they're teaching the wrong things. It's like if
You-
you learn chess,
They
that's
don't
great. But
have the
Sasha was real
supplies,
smart.
backing, or
He goes,
anything.
I'm going to learn investing
Rick
and
wants to
become
go.
rich.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is a terrible time for retail. Not everybody's cut out to be
Yeah,
an
retail's bad.
entrepreneur. Like what, 90% of restaurants fail in the first year? And that's restaurants that people still have to go to eat or at least get takeout from. But like a boutique, a clothing boutique, good luck with like making a profit off of that when you're competing against Amazon and fast fashion, Shine and all that. It's the people who aren't entrepreneurs should be able to have decent lives.
well,
Yeah.
That's the dream, but that's not the reality. I don't know what
Nick, just
planet
real
you live
Nick,
on.
hold on a second.
I don't
Just
know
real
what
quick.
country you're from, but that's a dream. Right?
Nick,
That's not
a couple of
reality.
things.
Let's talk
Nick,
to Sasha.
hold on a
because
second,
Sasha
Nick.
moved
No, Nick, a couple
into
of things.
investing as an entrepreneur. He's a
Well, Nick,
successful
Sasha
investor.
himself
Let's
said,
have Sasha take the floor, please. Thank you, Sasha.
Well, I have show here, Modern Investing. And, I've done it now for a number of years. And I come into the conclusion that there are certain things are unteachable. And I think entrepreneurship is one of those. And Nick, you have to really take a long, hard look at the idea of financial literacy and entrepreneurship and all that stuff. I think, let's see if you take a number of chimpanzees and we'll teach them the entrepreneurship and the financial literacy and so on. It will be quite a waste of time of teachers and so. And by the way, teachers, how would they know how to teach entrepreneurship and financial literacy? Because if they would knew what it is, they wouldn't be teachers anymore. They would do much more significant things.
That is a dumb argument
hold on a second. Jacoby,
Hold on, real
hold on a
quick.
second. Jacoby, I've got to back down a couple of things y'all are saying that I got to take challenge with and everything. One, Sasha, you have told me several times that you're not even sure that people are listening to your investment show and they're learning from the investment show and all of those.
Perhaps they're listening, but I don't think that they understand anything. And they're not taking even efforts to understand because you have to work. Your mind has to be attuned to what's going on and understand it. Ask questions. They don't understand. They don't ask questions.
So I'm going to dismantle your argument just as I dismantled Nick's. Sasha, number one, I'm going to pit you two against each other. Sasha, when you started your
You don't have to.
investment
You
show-
did it already.
when you started your investment show and being a small business owner, did you go to entrepreneurial classes?
No.
Thank you. So, Nick, your argument is poor. So
No, it isn't. Jacoby, what I'm saying
we're
is
done with that
you're
argument
supposed
because
to offer it.
he
That's
didn't
the
do
reason
what you
in the
did, and
class,
he's actually
you have to learn it
successful.
on your
So
own,
you're
dude.
saying that he's not successful if he doesn't do what you do. So your argument is poor,
what I'm
saying that you
saying
have to
is
do like me.
you're an educational
Number
system
two,
that you
Sasha,
Democrats
when
want
you
to spend
say,
more money on teaching
Nick,
along
your argument's
subjects.
done. You lost it. It's okay. So
No,
Sasha,
there is no loss.
on your argument saying
you're
that
admitting-
teachers should, if they knew how much they would make, they wouldn't teach. So you're saying that the only way a person can be successful is if they focus on money.
No, my point.
Thank you. So your argument's done. So I've done dismantled both of you guys' arguments, pitted you guys against each other. This conversation is easy.
It is. You're right. You see, what I'm trying to say is that teachers, they by their training and their love of what they're doing, leads them in. Let's say someone who teaches history, so he knows a hell of a lot about history, and he loves it, and he's teaching it. But it does not indicate that he could successfully teach entrepreneurship or financial literacy. Or you will take math teacher or music teacher or just whoever. They don't have a basic background and even, I would say, willingness to teach entrepreneurship and financial literacy. Now, entrepreneurship is
Sasha, you're saying take a random teacher whose discipline is in something else and force them to teach something else. No. Do we not have teachers that teach entrepreneurship? Yes. Do we not have teachers that teach financial literacy? Yes. So I don't understand your argument saying, okay, well, this history teacher can't teach entrepreneurship, so we're just teaching bad.
Okay, we are talking about
teachers that have
hold
specific
on.
disciplines.
Story, enough. I think what's happening here is we are mixing two things. Okay, so you are saying is that not allow history teacher or music teacher or anyone teach entrepreneurship and financial literacy because they're not equipped with the knowledge or experience or anything like this. Agree with you on that. So you're talking about bringing special teachers who specializing in financial literacy and entrepreneurship. Two things. Number one, entrepreneurship is unteachable. It's either you have it or you don't. Tell me, has Alexander the Great attended schools on how to conquer half of the world? No, he didn't. But that was in him. It was part of him. It was desire to do so.
You're mixing it up, just like how you're saying we're mixing things up. Of course, if that history teacher has a background in financial literacy and wants to teach financial literacy, the history teacher can teach both. But again, it's not a matter of, and just like any other discipline, if you're going to bring somebody in for creative writing, it's the same thing as bringing somebody in for financial literacy. So you teach that class. But the thing is, when you're saying entrepreneurship isn't something teachable, that's incorrect. It can be taught. The thing is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's different. That is something that's within you, which what you're talking about. So financial literacy and entrepreneurship can be taught if you want to do it.
Jacoby, along those same lines and everything. Hold a second. Jacoby, along those same lines, I'm just going to give y'all a case study and everything. And it's because I know the individual. I know Jacoby knows him as well. There is an award-winning teacher who actually runs a city, but he also runs a very successful business. So I think that he has done good in both of those venues and everything. So am I incorrect in saying that one, Leonardo Williams, who is our current mayor, is an award-winning teacher, because that's actually where he came from, and that he has one of the top restaurants here in the area, Zwelly's and everything. So that he is a case in point of somebody that has been good in both fields. And I would argue Wendell Tabb, who is a drama teacher and is now a retired drama teacher and is now about to be on our school board, would be an example of somebody that has crossed both fields as well.
Yeah, well, he's exceptional. I'm looking at a list of hours worked per year by country. The U.S. is pretty much in the middle, with people averaging 35, 36 hours a week. But there are plenty of countries where people work a lot less, where you would think of as successful countries. Germany, France. France, people average 30 hours a week. Germany, people average 27 hours a week.
Well, I want to come back to what you're saying.
Hold on, let me finish.
Yeah.
Mexico people average 48 hours a week. You can't argue that Mexico is necessarily more successful than France or Germany just because they work 30% more hours.
Well, I want to come back to something that Nick said earlier and everything, because he gave this notion that it has to be taught in the school system and all along those lines. And I would argue that some of the greatest entrepreneurship lessons that I had was actually what could call a case study in learning and everything, because my parents, and Jacoby knows this, and I've brought it up on the show several times before, ran a radio station for 10 years. So I had a case study of how to run a business while I was watching them as a youngster and a young man and everything. And I think that, Jacoby, I don't want to speak out of school, but I say you could say the same thing with what you saw with your dad and your sister's dentistry practice and all along those lines. So sometimes it is case studies where you learn from on-the-job training is a very real thing. So I would say that some of my entrepreneurship lessons that I got was on-the-job training.
There's not room for a nation of all entrepreneurs. I've always liked working for somebody else, having the pressure on some. I mean, you know, when I worked on the late night show, the pressure that, you know, the guy whose name was on the show was just insane. You know, with the network above him crushing him, and his responsibility for 200 employees from below, and he's the point where that comes together. That's brutal. You know, I could go home at 7 at night, and his job was 24 hours a day.
I mean, everything you said is spot on, Rick. Not everybody can be a CEO. Not everybody wants to be a CEO. Exactly. Not everybody can be the last leg of a relay team. Not everybody can be the last leg of a relay team. Not everybody can be Jimmy Kimmel and host a night show. Not everybody wants to host a night show. We have different things that people want to do. And it's just a matter of figuring out, allowing that individual to figure out what they want to do and going from there, and not forcing everybody into, hey, you gotta make money. Money should be your only. No. You have to do what you love, because what's the old adage? If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, and that's where people want to get to.
Yeah, but I know that sometimes Nick has this notion that certain jobs are useless jobs, because I've heard him say that several times on this network, and I don't necessarily agree with him on that. But Nick, am I wrong in hearing you say that there are certain jobs that you feel are absolutely useless and all along those lines?
Yeah, there is. I mean, the thing is, you pretend it's a job, but it really isn't. It's like a hobby. So, you know, a lot of it is like if you played chess. Okay, that's great. Well, let's get real. It's a hobby. Now, some people can turn it into a job, but generally it's not something you want to teach. So somebody's going to be successful in business someday. Latin, that's a big one. You know, they still teach Latin at school. It's appalling. And then the teachers want a raise for teaching Latin. Are you serious? Theater, that's another one. You know, I mean, I can go on and on. So what's the real problem is they're not teaching the right stuff that will make a child successful. Yet teachers go, oh, I want a raise. And now Bernie Sanders, oh, I want to work less hours. Okay, that's great. Then get prepared to make less and be prepared to be.
No, I got to back you up on something.
I don't have any problem with it. But realize it's your choice.
You said theater is a useless job.
Whether Jacoby wants to hear it or not, all the successful people out there work 80 hours a week. They don't say, I'm working 40, I want to work 32. Forget that.
You also said theater is a useless job, and a lot of people will tell you that theater and some of the other creative arts can help develop something that we all say we want more of.
Oh, sure. Yeah, chess can help. But you know what? I can play tic-tac-toe. It'll help my development. Give me a break. I mean, that is absolutely garbage. All that stuff can help at a decreasing rate. If you want to be successful, you got to go right into the lion's den and beat the bloody lion. If you're not, you're just going to be a wimp out there. But just enjoy your wimp status. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it, like Jacoby said. But please don't complain about and don't ask to be a lesser wimp, like Bernie Sanders. I'm a wimp at 40 hours, and I want to be a lesser wimp at 32. Fine, so, okay, but then don't look like.
Do any industries right now work less than 40 hours?
None of the successful people that I know, and I only know people for 40 years, work less than 40 hours. None of them. If you were to talk to any of my successful clients, And
me
all
point
I
another-
have for successful
let me
clients,
point
they would
another
be
fact.
laughing at you, literally,
Let me
Jacoby,
point another
when you say,
fact
hey, and
out
they'd be
to
laughing
you.
at Bernie Sanders.
Let me point
32
another
hours, really?
fact out to you, Nick.
Really?
Now, during COVID, what industry kept us alive? What
Kept us
industry?
alive? Well, a lot of people still work during.
Come
other
on
work
now.
is
What
done on the
industry kept
internet.
us alive?
All right. So
No,
we
what
got
kept us
sick,
alive was
where
the
do you go?
drug industry.
When
It
you
was
get
the
sick,
drug
where do you
industry.
go?
In other words, it was
You go
actually
to the
developing the
drug industry.
vaccine.
That's where you go. When you get
Yeah,
sick, you
it
go to
was
the
developing the
drug.
vaccine. It was done by entrepreneurs
You're not
that
listening.
work,
When
entrepreneurs
you
at
get
biotech
sick,
that work
Nick,
more than 32 hours a week,
Nick,
Bernie.
you're rambling. You're rambling because you don't want to
No,
answer the question.
you're
When
just
you
not
get
listening.
sick,
God
who do you
gave
go
you
see?
2 ears, so you
Yeah,
do
there we
twice
go.
as much listening.
I know, but
One
you're doing
mouth.
most of the talking, so you're not using your 2
we
ears.
should
to listen.
probably move on
So
from
when
something
you
else.
get
But
sick, where do you go?
Yeah, we probably should.
You go to the medical industry. You go to a nurse. Do you know who works 32 hours a week?
I hope it's not the nurse. Oh, you're kidding. No wonder why they don't get paid. The doctors work more than
so there are entire
No,
countries where
doctors
people
work just about the same. Do you know the hours that
that.
they work?
Doctors work their butts off. None of them I know that are successful. I know a lot of doctors, they don't work 32
there are
hours.
entire countries where people average 30 hours a week. Germany, Japan, Canada. Are you arguing these countries aren't successful? All right.
He's not arguing anything right now. He disappeared.
Yeah.
Speaking about long hours, I would like to remind you what actually I talked about it on the last investment show. Mark, I think you were on that show, and I talked about my first ever investment without any knowledge, without any understanding, without anything whatsoever. I was in Vancouver, and I came to the office of a friend of mine, Grandmaster Duncan Suttles, and his company. He said that before dinner, okay, let's visit our office. So we went to his office, 9:00 in the evening, Sunday. There were about 15 people working. And I asked him, how is it possible in Canada to have people working at 9:00 in the evening on Sunday? He said, well, they're all programmers and we're preparing release of the new software for stock market and so on. When I came back to Toronto, I asked the stockbroker to start buying me shares of this company. It was trading at 50 cents a share. And she was furious, and she was saying, you're going to lose all your money. It's a very risky penny stock investment. No, I'm not going to allow it. I told her, if you can't do it, I'll find somebody else who can do it. So she says, okay, I'll buy you a few shares. So I bought shares for probably $10,000 or something. And then I started to acquire more shares at 60 cents and even more at 70 cents. And my highest shares that I paid for, 2,000 shares, I still bought it for $4.20. My average price was $1.25. Because majority of shares I bought at below dollar level. Stock went as high as $4.70. I sold about half of my shares, I thought it could go even higher, but with $4.70, half shares, I already made insane amount of money. At least at that time, it was 35 years ago, I made close to $300,000 at that time. It was a large sum of money. Even today, for some people, this is a pretty good piece of money. Now, I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I didn't have any financial literacy. And it was just my impression that the company has so many dedicated people as they're working 9:00 in the evening on Sunday. So obviously they're working well over 40 hours a week, right? So that company probably will be more successful than the company people say, oh, I've already worked 32 hours. Okay, bye.
32 hours is too much. I'm out of here. Yeah,
just to point out, just another factoid, because you keep saying 80 hours a week when the average, Nick, hold on. You keep saying 80 hours a week and all this other stuff, but the average CEO only works 62.4 hours a week. Then on top of that, in terms of, and these are facts again, I'm just reading facts. And then in terms of if you go down the actual industries themselves, mining and lodging actually works the most hours per week at 45 hours per week. And mining and lodging actually works, it gets paid less than these other industries that are on there, from utilities that goes 42 all the way down to retail and trade, which averages about 29.8. So if you look at all these industries, information is at 36.4, which makes more than pretty much all of those other industries combined. And that goes against your idea that these successful industries only work all these great extended hours, but it's less than 80, and you keep yelling 80. That's wrong.
80 is a good number.
Then you better tell these people who've done these studies, which you have not done any studies. These people who've done studies and done the statistics, like Harvard, just said 62
hours is good. You're heading in the right direction.
You better tell Harvard that they're wrong.
Yeah, 62 is right.
Along those same lines, how many companies work flex hours? Because I know a number of them in the Research Triangle Park in New York and a number of other places that literally work basically what Bernie is proposing, because they work about 3 or 4 days and then they get off early or don't work at all on Friday. So flex hours have been out there for a number of years, and it has been a trend that I have seen for a while. So you're saying that trend is a trend that we should not be going in, if I'm hearing you correctly?
You're going in the wrong direction. And that's one reason the Democrats are going to lose in November, is they put things out like this, and any person who works in industry knows it's dumb, it's stupid. Hey, I'm going to work 1 hour a week. Boy, I'm so much more productive.
Incorrect.
Working 1 more hour,
I have just shown you studies where there is a boost in productivity. I have shown you studies, and this is why other companies are putting in extra things. What you're asking is was it the Famicom where people are jumping out of the building to commit suicide in Japan, where they're working multiple hours and getting paid just pennies on the dollar so they can just eat? That's what you're asking for, Nick. What people, what the actual electorate is asking for is actually better wages and actually a better pay compared to the hours that they work, which again, the lower hours shows a boost in pay, which CEOs are asking for. CEOs are only working 62.5, even less on some of the other areas. In different industries, they're actually working that 4-day work week already, including dentistry and even some of the other specialty medical care facilities, which have high retention rate. So therefore, Nick, everything you said about this whole, we're going to work you to the bone because you're going to have to work 80 hours, because if you're not working 80 hours, you're talking about killing people. That's what you're talking about.
I'm looking at charts of hours worked over time. The average, so in 1850, the average American worked 70 hours a week. And
we were successful back then. That's when our
they were freaking farmers. And by 1920, it was down to 50 hours a week, and that's when we started having a depression. After World War II, it dropped to 40, and it has stayed flat at 40 hours a week, even as GDP per capita has doubled. So the trend is, it was.
Yeah, it was.
To have work hours go down until we entered our current era, where people keep working their asses off, but don't, and the owners keep reaping the benefits of.
Hold a second, because I want to get to a couple of other things. I want to get to a couple of other things too. So, Rick, just really quickly and everything, because you're from this area that I'm going to mention. Apparently, there was a near historic snowfall in Colorado. I thought y'all already had plenty of snow and everything, and they're saying that it knocked out power for thousands and everything. They're saying that the March snowfall may have made the record book. So I just wanted your take on this, since there's apparently a whole bunch of snow that y'all were not expecting.
Like growing up in Boulder, like every year or two, we'd get a 3 to 5 foot snowstorm, and it shut everything down. And that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, along those same lines, and I was going to, because we talked about it yesterday with TikTok, and apparently the Chinese are attacking TikTok and the House vote as a bandit logic. That's their word and everything. So they are thinking that we don't need to be worried about them as a TikTok power. And earlier you heard me mention the fact that McDonald's, and I think that was in Australia and a number of other countries, was basically shut down because they were having technology issues. So they basically, if you wanted that Mickey D's in Australia, in Perth or Sydney, you might have been in trouble. So I just wanted y'all's take on this notion of the power of the internet, and maybe even how it can cripple in the entire world, because apparently there was an IT failure that hit about 3 of the continents.
Well, we're technologically captured. It's impossible to live your life without, I mean, unless you're a lunatic living in the woods, a Ted Kaczynski in a log cabin, to live your life without the internet, without technology. And then, you know, so we're subject to the glitches of technology.
I mean, technology is just a tool. Some people like me, we grew up without having to have the internet. We weren't super dependent on the internet. We actually read books as opposed to, oh, I got to read it on the internet. And so it's not necessary that we spend $50,000 to hook up somebody with 5G internet line in Podunk, Kansas, and have the government pay for that. As one of our commentators said, hey, no problem. Everybody deserves the internet. No, they don't. Okay. So if you want to have high-speed internet, you need to get off your butt and move to a city that has 5G. But don't expect me as a taxpayer to go into debt to pay your internet line just because you're going to be behind 27 months because you're too lazy to read and you want everything spoon-fed to you on the internet. So this is, again, another reason why the Democrats will lose in November, is their proposals are always, I'm going to throw money at stuff and tax successful people so that these poor people get served everything on a silver platter. Let me tell you something, it ain't going to happen. Welcome Donald Trump to the presidency.
There are 2 Republican states.
Thank you,
there are 2 Republican states that are tilting at windmills, and you're going to love this one and everything, because I had brought it up before, but apparently they've been joined by another Republican state, because I had mentioned earlier, and I know that Nick has this show called Naked at Night, and there are various sites that are catering toward the blue industry, as some people like to call it. So Pornhub was banned from North Carolina, and apparently as of today, it has been banned from Texas. And so apparently they have been banned.
So vote against Republicans. They're coming for your right to jerk off.
Republicans are just good moral people. They're trying to bring morality
you cannot say that they're good moral people like that.
States of America, where the Democrats are trying to degrade it. So the thing is, we need to support the Republican Party. If anything that you're doing out there, you want to bring hard-working Republicans
Nick,
back
this is
into
a
office.
great question now. What exactly is Republican Party? You know that Republicans, some of Republicans who were not happy with Donald Trump, they create a new super PAC, which started with $50 million. And the single purpose of that super PAC, run by and organized by Republicans, is not to allow Trump to win this election. I'm talking about Republicans only. So are they still, in your opinion, Republicans, or what? Who they are?
Oh, they're the real Republicans. I'm not talking about the party of Trump. I'm talking about the real Republicans that are for longer working hours, people to work, better education system, which our education system right now sucks, and STEM growth. So we have a very strong base of Republicans who want to move the American forward, which unfortunately is not the party of Trump. It is the true Republican Party.
Right. So this election that you say Trump is going to win is split between the Trump Republicans and the upstanding Republicans, which whenever you get a split party, it spells electoral doom for that party.
Well, I mean, you have the same problem with the Democrats. You have the wild-eyed liberals like Bernie Sanders who say communism is great, don't go to work. And then you have the Democrats.
Yeah, those are a loud, tiny minority. Like
you have the AOCers out there. Out there. So,
Joe Biden, who is of opinion of many cannot talk, cannot walk, cannot do anything, he raised $30 million in hour and a half after his speech at the State of the Union. Okay, so all RNC, Republican Trump's RNC, has less money than Biden raises in hour and a half. Do you understand the difference? Do you understand?
Trump is just one person. The Republican Party is huge. Trump is just one guy in the Republican Party, and after he's president for 4 years, you're never going to hear him about again. But you will hear about the Republican Party. It will come back in force because they do want a bigger, stronger America. They don't want a Biden. We're heavily in debt. Biden, we're spending money like
in the Georgia
Biden, everybody's poor America. The Republican Party wants successful Americans, not failures.
But there are two Republican parties. Which one are you talking about? You admitted there are two Republican parties. One is party of Trump, which is going to election.
He's going to be history.
Traditional Republicans who are not going to election.
Yeah, they're going to be coming back.
What are you talking about? Which one are you talking about? They're working.
The true Republican Party. You'll see. It'll come back in force. You'll see.
Even after Nikki Haley dropped out, she got 13.2% of the vote in the Georgia primary. Trump can't lose 13% of the people who voted for him and still win the presidency.
Yeah, you're right. The biggest struggle that Trump will have is trying to get the true Republicans to actually go like this and vote for him. But they'll vote for all the other Republicans because they know that the other Republicans are right and Biden's a failure. There's absolutely no question about that. He's got failing economic policies. He's got a failed budget. Did you see that? He's going to put the United States 116% of GDP in debt. I mean, he's got Social Security and Medicare going broke. So here we have a failed president that unfortunately we just can't get rid of.
So these are the perfect.
It's like we're stuck with this.
I love the talking points that you're pulling from right now because they are all every single one of them.
It's true. I have the budget. I asked you to read it.
Nothing you said is true.
You probably didn't look at page 1.
Nothing you said is true. That's the funny part.
No.
So,
I'll show you.
Going back to, for example, everybody saying, "Oh, well, the Republican Party wants a better education system." Everybody does. Correct. That's not a Republican Party specific thing. The improvements upon the education system are imperative to everybody in the country. However, the Republican Party is the one that actually cuts money and funding to improve the education system. So the Republican Party says, hey, we want to do this, but they cut funding and do everything to attack the education system, making it tougher to do things that you're talking about. So in terms of improving the education system, if you go back to the internet that you complain about, as much as you want to cry and say, well, you should this and you should that, well, it has been factually proven that the education system needs to be improved, which we all agree on, but you're fighting against improvements on the education system. The way you do that,
here's something you need to read.
You bring up this document and just show off the front page saying, have you read this? Have you read this? And then do nothing but talk nothing about the actual document. Or what's inside of the document.
It's 188.
Yeah, we've heard that before, but you said nothing about the document. You said nothing. What's on the inside?
What's on the inside? Let me
go to a page. Show us something on the inside. Let's talk about what's on the inside.
1.7 trillion.
You already said that. That's the
what's on the inside.
You said nothing about the document.
Okay, listen carefully, counselor. Debt
Counselor,
to GDP ratio.
Please open the book.
16%.
If you're not
what's on the inside?
This cup has water in it. Water in the cup. Water.
This is a monstrosity. It will never be passed by the good Republicans who realize this is right. This is old Biden politics. Waste, fraud, and abuse.
You show nothing.
It's the reason
your
why
words mean nothing.
Trump will be elected in November.
And what would his budget look like? And what did his budget look like before?
Nothing afterwards.
It was bad.
So his budget was just as bad. So what's your point?
Yeah. Well, my point is, your friend Joe Biden, who you guys all worship, could not, because he's stupid, and there's nothing wrong with being stupid.
Solo.
He could not submit a balanced budget.
I won't tell you what's inside this book, but
I'm saying, when was the last time there was a balanced budget, and will Trump balance the budget?
Oh, it was actually Bill Clinton back in 1993. Bill Clinton, a Democrat, balanced the budget. Before that,
So
it
did
was
Obama.
Richard Nixon. He balanced the budget. If Bill
Richard
Clinton
Nixon
can
did
balance
not.
the budget, Joe Biden can balance it. He wouldn't balance the
Every
budget.
Democrat,
needs to be thrown out of office.
every
Anybody
Democrat
but Biden,
who's been in
please.
office currently has, well, the Democrat Party, when they're headed office, they actually balance the budget. It's actually the
under Bill
Republican Party,
Clinton.
the Republican presidents, because when Bush came in after Clinton, or I'm sorry, yeah, it was. When Bush came in after Clinton, Clinton had a surplus. Bush blew it. Obama came in and balanced the budget based off of what Bush did. He actually put the actual wars on the books and actually balanced the budget, and the actual deficit was coming down. However, Trump came in and added 25% into the budget. Currently, right now, Joe Biden's budget has actually helped balance and actually taken the budget down some in comparison to what Trump has done and actually other Republican presidents have done. Yes. But again, you will not open the page of this book and talk about it. You will just say random numbers.
No, we're gonna go over this in copious
1 point.
detail with the former Comptroller General of the United States of America,
Who?
David Walker. This is
Yeah,
over this every
Republican
year.
David Walker. Yes,
In other
we know.
words, where the waste, fraud, and abuse is, and why didn't your president get rid of it instead of sticking it in here and
What?
sticking
Waste,
it to the
fraud, and
American public?
abuse?
The other
term?
thing he decided to do. in
No,
his
hold on.
infinite wisdom,
Wait.
is to
Don't just
raise
gloss over it,
taxes.
Nick. What did he
raised
take out a
taxes on
term?
all successful people. That's great. So Joe raises taxes
Nick,
on successful
you're just
people
glossing
and
over
squanders
stuff.
money
You've got
all
like
over the world. It's amazing.
Are you reading
how
a sheet
bad
of
he is.
paper? Are you reading a sheet of paper?
Just really quickly,
No,
I
actually,
think we've only got a few minutes to go.
go.
Just we've all got a few minutes to go, but one thing I was going to bring up, because apparently there was another incident, so I know it'll be another political talking point, and we might get to that on Monday. And by the way, we have a guest on Monday. I think it is a guest that Sasha will love, because they have actually written a book about how horrible Mr. Former President Trump is. So they should be coming here. And I think they're actually coming from another part of the world. I think they're coming from Ireland, if I remember correctly, but they will be our guests on the 18th, and we'll be looking forward to hearing their conversation as to why they are not fans of former President Trump. And maybe Nick will have some questions for them as well. But definitely, that being said, there was a shooting yesterday in a subway train in Brooklyn that also featured a stabbing as well. So I know sometimes when people think about gun control, they also talk about, well, are you going to take the knives away also? But apparently it involved both knives and guns in a New York City subway in Brooklyn, which is actually one of the major boroughs there in New York and everything. So I was just wondering, anybody's thoughts just really quickly on the merits of gun control and whether that will be something that the candidates will be discussing as well.
They'll discuss.
We're on our way to an average of 2 guns for every adult American. You're not going to get rid of the guns. So you have to figure out other ways to protect yourself against lunatics shooting up the place.
I mean, Rick's spot on again. They'll discuss it. They'll say things about it. Trump will tout, hey, I'm Second Amendment this and Second Amendment that. Biden will actually talk about legitimate policies that, things that Rick is touching on there, other ways of getting around it, but nothing's going to get done. Nothing.
I mean, when you take some responsibility for your own safety against lunatics, when you go into a restaurant, sit mafia style, back to the wall, know where you can run or duck or to get out of there if somebody starts shooting up the place.
Rick, how are you going to do that on a subway? Because that's actually one of the things that they were complaining about, was this was on a New York City subway. And of course, those things are crowded, have not been on one in decades now, or even several years and all along those lines. But the folks who were crying that there were babies on there as well, because definitely anybody that's been on a New York
you're going to
subway
take your
knows they're very
chances. I
crowded.
mean, the odds that we live in a big country, we got 1/3 billion people, 36,000 people get shot dead every year. Half of those are suicides. So, it's not great, but it's the cost of having, Second Amendment lunatics, and unable to control. We sell 10 to 15 million more guns every year. So yeah, when you go out, you don't have to obsess over it, but just part of, reasonable behavior is to keep an eye on things around you. Subways have a door at each end, that you can, run to a different car, know to duck, it's unlikely you'll get shot, but there are things you can do to protect yourself.
And on that note, get on
we
out of
have
here.
to-
We've got to get ready to
Yeah,
do things that our engineers like, and all along those lines. We will have some other programming. We've got the Color Whisperer coming at 2:00, which is around interior designing and things along those lines. And then we've got the Good Ship happens at 3:00, which is about Nick's favorite industry, the cruise industry, and all along those lines. So we'll be having that coming your way at 3:00, as well as the Angry Geeks and Skeptical Metaphysicians and even Success for Women at 7:00. So a number of great programming right here on Pod TV. Right now we're getting ready to get out of here, but we do have, I think, 2 guests or 3 guests next week as well. But one of them is a anti-Trump guest, and we'll be seeing what they've got to say as well. But I just got that confirmed earlier today. So let's get on out of here, and we'll have some other programming later on.